Yes. Okay. Thank you guys so much. Now for the panel discussion. We're going to be using these mics, and one is going to be passed around with the panelists. The discussion is going to be centered around this concept of the good life. And so, Sikhet Waitaru Hiwat Milo. And it's just around these values that we hold dear to our hearts. And it's what drives and motivates the life that we build, the career that we choose, where we choose to live. And so, considering these notions, how do we reevaluate this, and how do we understand them so we can better understand and maybe fight back against other concepts that maybe want to take us away from Ethiopia or take us away from the good life that we can actually have. And so we're hopefully going to learn from each other, from younger generations to learn from the older, but also to have this conversation of maybe like there's a lot of things that are in common. And so we want to bridge that gap, and we want to have these conversations. And so first, thank you panelists for taking the time to be here at short notice for some of you. I'm really, really grateful. And then we'll begin with short introductions about your name, what you did academically after graduating from Lycée, and a little bit what you're currently working on or what you're passionate about or anything you'd like to add. So we'll start with you.
Thank you so much. My name is Feben Yohannes. First off, I'm so impressed with the topic, with you, and how you got started with this concept. But and the eloquence by which you presented it is quite impressive. So my name is Feben Yohannes. I'm an ancien lycéen actually. Lycée Tamerre, where I went to lycée and then finished 12th grade, joined Addis Ababa University. I studied economics. And I've always been entrepreneurial, so I had a small fish business while going to university here. Sold my fish business for to my two partners, and once I was done with school and traveled a little bit, and then joined Coca-Cola as the first marketing manager, actually. So I was one of the very few people that started the office. After which I got engaged, and after a year and a half, went to the US. So left Ethiopia in 2000. I was 4 months pregnant with my daughter. I was 24 years old, and ended up in San Francisco, where I had my child in 2000. So I have a 24-year-old daughter. Yeah, I don't look like it. You can say it. Thank you. Yes, I'm quite proud of that, actually. So that's sort of like my path. US was very tough for me. I'm young. I was a single mom, so I truly appreciate the nonprofit organization that we're supporting today. And then did a bunch of experience-driven path forward in life in the US. Lived 18 years in the US, and when my daughter turned 18, she moved to LA. She's a model, and I moved back to the US, to Ethiopia. So I'll stop here, and then I'll let the rest introduce themselves so that I can come back to my life in Ethiopia after that. Okay.
Thank you very much. My name is Marit Kitaw. I'm also very impressed by you, so that's why I insisted for my kids to come, because you are becoming already a role model. So, yeah. So, So I was in lycée, ancien lycéen as well. I did terminal day. It was a biology, but I ended up studying economics because the year I graduated was 91, and I saw the whole upheaval, and I asked, what will I do with biology? I want to come back. I still had that coming back to Ethiopia thing. But if there's poverty and this, what is it? So I decided to go to do economics. So I went to France, Nice. I did my PhD in economics. And then I went to the US. I stayed there for 5 years, 2005. And then I had my green card and everything, but I decided to come to Ethiopia, but to the continent. I have to say my career has been African. But here Ethiopia is also an international city. So that helps for me to have come back. I came first. I came to Africa first. I went to Tunisia, and then I got married in between. So avec un lycéen. So we decided after Tunis, he's the owner here, so I'm also owner of this place, half owner. So with Tunisia, but then we went to Zambia. My first child, we had him in Zambia, technically. Well, okay, you were born in the US, but I went back to Zambia, and then Kigali, Rwanda, and then Mozambique. But the last one is here. But I work in very African institutions. I work for the Economic Commission for Africa for a long time. I was in Africa Union for 3 years. I just left, and nobody knows that I left. It's been a month now. But it's Africa calling, but Africa and Ethiopia as a whole for me. Okay. I'll talk about the rest later.
Thank you very much. My name is Robel Saido, of course, ancien lycéen. I just don't want to repeat what they said, but God bless you. So that will summarize everything for what they said. I graduated from Lycée. I did my bac in gestion comptabilité, which is a bit a kind of a business wing. Then my father, I was the last boy in a family of 9. So yeah, in a family of 9. So yeah, I'm number 7. So my father told me not to only look towards the West, towards going to France or US or Canada, and he said, you could try things here. And of course, he wanted me to try things here, but also to keep me next to him, because I was the last boy in the house. So yeah, because of him, my story also is a bit different than them. I stayed here and I joined Addis Ababa University, and I wanted to be a diplomat, but being in Addis Ababa University, there were so many things that really took that desire out of me. But I joined international relations and political science. It was a minor in management. So I graduated in that, and then immediately I joined a French multinational, which I worked for 12 years. For me, of course, I've been going back and forth, and a lot of my friends in France, in US, they were encouraging me to stay there, to, compared to what Ethiopia was at that time. We're talking in 2000, where there was no correct road even to go from here to Desi. So and there is completely different. It's not the new Ethiopia's corridor, but it's a tough area in our country. So still, after joining Addis Ababa University and looking at the diverse culture within the university, it also encouraged me to stay here. So I joined a French multinational, and I think I was blessed to join that company because it gave me the opportunity to know my country, to know the culture, the richness of Ethiopia. We were in Lycée Guebre-Mariam. We were privileged and blessed to have families who put the effort to put us in a school like Lycée, which I strongly believe that it's a privilege, and I believe that we need to give back that privilege. But Lycée was not the right image of Ethiopia, hence Africa. I remember when an Air Jordan came out that we refused to go to school if we don't get an Air Jordan. But going to Addis Ababa University, when I see Ethiopians that don't even have shoes, I remember I asked one guy why he's coming to class with a flip-flop, and he told me, Robert, it's because I don't have shoes at Addis Ababa. That really changed my perspective. So I decided to join this French company, and I traveled at that time. I joined in 2000, the French company in the beverage, and I was a sales promoter initially, but promoted to a regional manager in 3 months because of performance. And I was so blessed to know the beauty, the culture, the human capital, the natural resource of this country. So at that age, I was 23, but I used to drive 6,000 kilometers a month. 6,000. And up to getting into an accident that almost took my life. So the one thing that I can say in my life journey that I'm blessed is traveling that Ethiopia from north, from the top north, almost to Eritrean border, even crossing the Eritrean border to the south, Gode, Somali border, or Gambela, South Sudan, or Djibouti. One thing I've learned that Ethiopia is beautiful. People are beautiful. People don't have the opportunity. People lack opportunity. People lack jobs. People lack otherwise. Those small things, apart the small things, we have a beautiful country and a beautiful continent. Of course, Ethiopia is an image of Africa. In some ways, we have a lot of similarities. So I was blessed to know this country inside out with its diversity and its beauty. Thank you.
That's a very good answer. Thank you. These are all really interesting things that we're also going to discuss on. The first question I would like to ask is, what career did you think you were going to pursue at the end of high school or after lycée? Just could be a short answer.
So I actually run an architecture and engineering firm currently. It's called Delphi Design Engineering and Construction Management. My passion was architecture.
Okay.
So initially, I thought about going to study architecture. Unfortunately, I also sort of, the people that know me know that I'm involved in multiple things at the same time. So that's my personality. I get bored very easily. So I kind of knew that if I focus on architecture, there's no dilly-dallying, right? So it's kind of 5 years of education, no time for, I used to model as well back in the day, and no time for all the other small entrepreneurial stuff that I was into, like my fish business, this and that. And so I knew myself, and I said, okay, I love architecture, but I will study economics. I loved numbers, and that was my second choice for myself. And that's the initial passion that I had, actually. Architecture was my passion. God has plans for us, which is so interesting, because I remember at a very young age, I would say I want to own an architecture firm. So I lived close to the Hilton Hotel, so an apartment building near Hilton. And since a very young age, I was so impressed with the architecture of that hotel, And so 15 years later, did many different sectors in the US, lived in San Diego. My last job was as the head of business development for one of the top architecture firms, actually. And it was a connection through the owner, one of the board, the members or the partners of the organization that pulled me in. And then that sort of opened my eyes to the fact that has been my passion. But, destiny does that, right? It kind of pulls you in that direction. And so once I kind of woke up to my childhood passion, and I think things opened up from there onwards. I also, I've always been kind of community driven. And in the US during that time, I was part of a nonprofit organization. I was board member of Imagine One Day. It's called Imagine One Day. It's a Canadian-based organization. And we've opened many schools in Ethiopia, actually. Current project management, currently, annually, we've got about $24 million in project management. So one of the schools that we're opening was in Bali Mountains, behind Bali Mountains in Filangur area. So the concept is to go from the most remote part of Ethiopia and kind of work our way towards the city, because conceptually speaking, the government can only do so much. So the idea was, let's meet at some point where at the end, in 2030, Ethiopia will be fully educated. That was the founder's notion. And so I attended one of the openings. So we always have about 20, 30 Americans and Canadians that join on these school openings. And so I came for the school opening, and at the same time, my mom is also a very known artist, painter. Her name is Desta Hagos, and she had an exhibition as well. So that's how I ended up in Ethiopia, even though my daughter moved to LA. My plan initially was to kind of, understand the lay of the land, right? And so when I came, at the at my mom's exhibition was a gentleman that owned an architecture firm in Ethiopia. He saw me and he said, I don't know how it came by, like how he had that idea, but he said, I'm opening a share company. That's 20-year-old company's becoming a share company. And so can you run it? That's it. Literally, I was here for 2 weeks and this sort of engagement came on my plate. And I also believe in sort of destiny, right? So my passion is connecting. I'm ready to move to Ethiopia. This opportunity came to my table, and so that's how I ended up staying in Ethiopia. Actually, running this architecture and engineering firm, which is one of the larger firms in the country. And then I ran that 3 years, and then started my own company. And Delphi is Delina, which is my daughter, and Feben. Delina also is DE for my mom's name, Desta. And that's what I've been doing. So architecture, my passion, currently as an economist running a very successful firm. Yeah.
Wow. Very interesting story. Thank you.
Yeah, so the question was what was I wanted, and then
Yes, kind of what did you expect to be or do?
Okay, and I'm glad I'll be talking because I see the young people here. So I like I said, I was supposed to do biology. I did now it's called SVT. So at the time it was called Terminal D. It was Sciences de la Vie et de la Terre, SVT. Yeah. But then like I said, when I saw the changes, and I was 18, and now that I think about it, I said to myself, well, is that really what I want to do? Like, I want to go work in a lab, and then what? I will not come back here because, at that time I was thinking that. So, we think at that time, like everything is like a given, a ladder, like you climb. Life is not like that. And I'm saying this because it's a very, how do you say, like a snake kind of thing. So I decided at the time in 91, everything was, and my dad was also a minister, so it was, my life was going a little bit, he was, for 2 years, he was in jail at the time. So there was some changes in my life personally that I saw, I was forced to see beyond my just studying biology. So I decided to do economics just because my dad said something. He doesn't even remember he said that to me. But he said, I asked him, what would it take for this whole thing for Ethiopia to be out of poverty? And, I can't just be doing biology. And he says, maybe economics. So I said, okay, I'll go do economics. That's how, he doesn't even remember. But he's a medical doctor himself, so he was expecting me to become a medical doctor or be in that field, but it didn't. So what I'm saying is sometimes if we doubt, at this age, it's normal. We will find our feet. It's not, the end of the... And right now, you have much more options than we had before. I'm talking to the younger. So I went. Nobody was paying really attention to me because there was this... So I remember my prof, Monsieur Toutin, if you remember. Wow. He was the one who said, you're going to study economics? How? Where? I'm like, you are good in science. You are at this. I said, well, I had something in my head. I don't regret it 1 second, is what I'm saying. So I went. I didn't have initially bourse, but I eventually had it. After 4 years, I excelled. And so I had bourse d'État from France. So I continued until I did a PhD. I was in Nice, Sophia Antipolis. It was a bit expensive. But our friends were mostly in Montpellier, so we used to go a lot in Montpellier. I chose Nice because of my brother. My older brother was already there, Kitaw. But yeah, so I did that. And then after I graduated, I was actually offered a job at France. Very unusual to be a research assistant. But then I said, not staying to France, I want to go to the US, out of the blue. And then because somebody told me there might be possibilities at the World Bank, very vague. I'm just saying. So I went to the US. I abandoned. I didn't even go back because my bourse I was supposed to go back to Ethiopia, but I applied for US visa and I was lucky to get the visa. So I went to the US, hoping somebody told me I would get a job because I'm economics, PhD, World Bank. At the time, there was no job, all of these things. So I worked in an NGO, interestingly. It was about conflict. My French helped to get that job. It was in DC. I stayed there 5 years. I had my H-1B visa, and I had green card. But then I said to myself, one day I woke up, I had a good, I was okay. I was earning, I was in an NGO, but then I said, what impact am I having? What is it? I work for this NGO. It was on conflict resolution, and then I'm like, I don't see the impact. If I go to something, maybe I'll have more impact because everybody's competent here. I don't see the impact. So I applied for a job at the African Development Bank, which was based in Tunis at the time. It was a temporary thing, and they gave me a very short term contract. I jumped. And they told me when I was still in the process of getting my green card. I remember the lawyer told me, if you go out of the country, you'll be in trouble. I said, something is calling me, I'm going. So I went, I never went back to the US. In between, I managed to get my green card, but I never. And at the time, and I was telling people that everybody thought I was crazy. How? If people fight for these green cards to get, So I started with African Development Bank in Tunis, and then I just came back here in Addis. Eventually had a job at the United Economic Commission for Africa. I specialized in a sector. That's also an accident, but mineral sector. And now I ended up being interim director for the African Union, African Minerals Development Center, advocating for the center around the world, globally, etc. So the point I'm trying to make here to the youth is that sometimes the path pushes you. It's not pre-planned. I never thought I would end up here, but I'm happy right now. So, yeah, that's the message I want to.
That's a great answer. Thank you.
Merci. For me, my advice to the youth is first before I talk about my career, is try to enjoy what you do. It's beautiful. This is a beautiful age, and it's an age where you're going to be exposed to so many things. Your families are going to try to protect you from danger, but they will not stop you. We all know they will not. So you have to understand that in this life of knowing, exploring everything, the one thing that you should be able to is to identify where it's going to take you. If I do this, where it's going to take me. That's how I was built. Because in Lycée, in terms of career, I always used to say, because my uncle was a very successful businessman. My father was an auto engineer, auto mechanic, because my father, Emperor Haile Selassie, gave him the highest honor and gave him a scholarship to go study auto engineering, auto mechanic in Germany, which he even excelled there in his field. And he also played football for Ethiopian national team with Yidnakacho Tasema and all that. So, my father did a little bit of everything, and he also let us enjoy what we do. I saw a successful business person in my life, my uncle. I saw my dad having an award from Haile Selassie, which he cherished a lot. And I also see other people in the family, in the government, in the public sector. So for me, it was a bit confusing. I was a confused young guy, not like them. I was confused because I was very athletic, very, very athletic. So that was, I was very athletic. And for those of you who love sport, don't just take it easy. Like if you want to do sport, try to do the best out of it. Try whatever you do, try to do the best out of it. Try to excel. That's why I called my company Excel. So try to excel at whatever comes. So I played soccer initially, football in our country. That was a great moment. I remember when I was in 8e, we beat the 7e in a kermesse, and I scored the last penalty when I was in 8e. That was one of my greatest moments in my life. So I thought sport would be like the best thing for me. And then I started playing basketball in 4e, 3e, and I played so hard. I played at night. Sometimes my family had calls. I remember I was belted once by my dad because the neighbors called and said that we could not sleep because he's bouncing balls. So I was like midnight, 11. After Lycée, I used to bounce balls. Do, do, do. And the neighbors were not happy about this because they couldn't sleep. So, but that gave me, I played for the national team. I played for Ethiopian national team. So I really pushed, in school, I was not, these two are outstanding students. You know, they're A students.
What?
Les
Noise
félicitations.
here.
I was not a félicitation. Rarely got 1 or 2 times tableau d'honneur. Rarely. And struggled to even have my moyenne. Really. Struggled. And I had to make calculations about which topic I need to focus on to get my moyenne. But that taught me how to fight, how to navigate through things, you know, how to navigate. But focus and to wanting to excel. You know, I was not a good student, but I almost had a mention in back, which I was not expected for that. They even say, if Robel makes it to the back, one of the teachers said something that was not supposed to be said by a teacher. Madame Matthias, I don't know. She's a maths teacher. She said something, and I had 17 in maths. Yeah, so she was shocked. Because I always had, she was shocked. And but for the back, I studied so hard to excel. Even to this day, sometimes it comes in my dreams. But I gave everything. So I thought of business when I was young. I thought of sport. Sport, I played national team. And when I was at university, first year, 19 years old, I was selected for Ethiopian national team. Wearing that jersey that says Ethiopia was a pride for me. Like, so I have, okay, then what next? You know, my father told me to stay. I'm not going to make it to the MBA. Then I started focusing on my education. Did good also in my education. And then life path put me in BGI. In 2000, there was a, BGI was looking for sales promoters. So we have applied, Lycée, French company, and I joined BGI as a sales promoter. Like I said, 3 months later, I was promoted. As a sales promoter, I never slept. I made sure that every day I over-delivered my volume. I overdid my job. You know, knew my outlets, knew my customers. I delivered in everything. Sometimes even carried beer crates to hit my target because the sales people were not delivering. So I had to push even myself, you know, coming from a very privileged family, you know. Born and raised in Bole, quote unquote, you know, Bole village. But I carried crates with the loaders into the outlets. So, you know, in 3 months, I never thought that I would get that promotion. But my performance, my boss called me and like, you were like 20 something. I just want to give you a challenge to be a regional manager in Central Ethiopia. So I went in that business path and I kept on excelling. Out of my 12 years in BGI, 8 years I was the employee of the year, and I have the award for that in BGI. So I ended up being regional manager. Then I established Castel Winery. For those of you who know, I established 2 amazing brands, Rift Valley and Acacia, and then worked on an equity firm, another multinational equity. I continued my career in the business, and I learned by the way, Lycée didn't teach me everything. Trust me, Lycée is not going to teach you everything. Life is going to teach you a lot of things. Peers, we're going to teach you things. We're going to learn from a lot of things. But have a longer view. How I'm going to impact. Especially me being in BGI and seeing Ethiopia, how people suffer, how people don't even eat once a day, how people suffer to eat, made me realize that this is not only Ethiopia, but also Africa, who's in the same situation. And like what Marit said, what can we do to impact? What can we do to give back, you know? And that was my path. So I wanted to be a diplomat. Learned the tough side in Addis Ababa University about being a diplomat, especially in our country. Then I continued my career in business. I excelled in business. Currently, like I said, I have a company called Excel. I'm doing it with my childhood friend, Theodros Abata. We've been friends for over 40 years, lycéens. So we're like partners. And we don't expect today, glory to Almighty, I'm sitting here running a very successful business, but I failed so many times. I failed. I failed in business that I knew I mastered. When I was working in Excel, completely failed, completely lost everything. like all the way to losing my company. But you know, me playing sport and looking at Jordan, Michael Jordan, who is one of my role models, how he fights back, even playing a game after having an injury, coming back and playing a game with teachers or whatever. That gave me sport, you know, in sport, I learned resilience in sport. I learned resilience. So after that, I fought back, and today our company, we're able to pay 40 people. We very good salary, managed successful project in Ethiopia, raised recently with my good friend Yoadan, who was part of the project, raised $1.6 billion as foreign direct investment for Ethiopia. And one of the youngster, Ms. Ghana, who's here, was part of the project as intern in our company. So, you know, life is not only what you want to do. Of course, in your childhood, you profess. Trust me, what you want to do is going to happen. What you're going to do, don't just, it's prophesizing your future. It's biblical also. So, but life will teach you a lot of things, and that's how you're going to find out where you're going to be. The most important thing is to give back. Thanks.
Perfect answer. Perfect gateway. Thank you, Robel, for doing that. Because the next topic we're going to talk about is this role of community and solidarity. And so I think for me, a big place that solidarity plays in my life, I saw it when I was growing up in our neighborhood. We're very close to another very underprivileged neighborhood, but I've never felt like that distance, in the sense of, I feel like we always saw kids playing in our neighborhood, and that was like normal. And I feel like my parents instilled a very much humility in our spirits, very much so. Thank you, parents. And so I feel like that concept of humility and solidarity really played a huge role in my life. And so when I went to the U.S. and I was living in Charlottesville, it's a very underprivileged city. I see a lot of people that were working at the dining halls, and the way that they lived, I feel like it was such this distance that we felt. Like you couldn't talk to the dining hall workers for some reason. And I was like, why do people say that? Why do people not say hi? I was like so shocked. And I think when I started volunteering, I started to get to know one of the dining hall workers because I was working with her kid. He was one of the kids I was tutoring. And so I got to know this dining hall worker, got to see where they live, and it was in their neighborhood. And it was this understanding of, oh, I'm in the US, and it's this crazy privileged country, and yet the kids that I'm tutoring have so much less than I've had. And the biggest one was like my parents' involvement. My parents were involved in my life, and that's something I'm so grateful for. But their parents worked so much that they didn't even have that privilege. And so it's understanding this concept of like we have so much, and just understanding of Ethiopia, that this wadajinet, this working together, eating together, and like being togetherness, that really like stayed with me at the core. And so one of the questions I wanted to ask you guys, and Robel touched on it a little bit, is what does this place of community, solidarity hold in your understanding of success, and how has that played either in your career or in your personal lives, if you guys would like to share a little bit about that?
I think you've worded it so well. Lycée played a big role in that. The fact that we're all equal, no matter what the background is, was our reality. We were a big group of friends at Lycée. We were about 7, 8 in my group, and one of them was the child of Mamite. So the cleaners and the security guards, their kids used to go to Lycée for free. We didn't know the difference at all. Like for us, we were all equals, and there was no difference in terms of how we treated each other. And then, I've always been sort of community driven. So I've always been délégué de classe, which is like a class representative, not for my discipline. I lacked discipline. But, you know, and also what Robel said, I was a good student, and it did not come hard for me, which was a problem, by the way, because the fact that I used to get félicitations did not do me any good. When things come easy for you, you do become lazy. And once I got to the university level, it caught up with me, you know. But Addis Ababa University, first year you do general studies. And then second year is when you select, actually. You select, and I selected economics. And in my class, we were about 45, 50 students. And out of 50 students, there were about, I would say, more guys than girls, 60-40, let's say. But literally, the students, my peers that were from Addis Ababa, were about 7 of us. So the rest were ክፍለ ሀገር ማለት ነው. So they came from the outskirts of Ethiopia, of Addis. And so and I do get along with everyone. I do get along with people. I, connect with people. What you give me, I connect with that, with the heart, right? So the first couple of months is the time to get to know each other. And third month into my second year of economics class, FB የሚባል ግቢ ነበረ. So there was a compound where accounting, management, and economics classes were happening. And so, we were standing outside, and I was talking to my friend from Gojam, Nugusu. And I turned around and I said, Nugusu, where is Miki? Because I was missing one person, one of our classmates. And he said, oh, you did not hear that Miki actually had a car accident. Miki is from Mekelle, Nugusu from Gojam. A whole bunch of my classmates are completely from outside of Addis. And I said, how the heck did you not tell us that our classmate had a car accident and we didn't know about it? And he said, Feben, look around you, look around you, because you're the only one that actually talks to us. The rest are in different groups, right? So there's the girls, there's the Ethiopian, the Addis girls are in one group, like the Nazareth School Tamariuch, በአንደኛው side. And then between the people that came from outside of Addis, boys and girls are separate. So it was very segmented. And I said, Nugusu is sort of like the leader of the guys. And I said, Nugusu, we're going to be together second, third, and fourth year. So 3 years, we're not going to be separated. And we cannot have this sort of separation amongst us because, we need to come together as and build that relationship. And so that day, we called for a meeting of our classmates. We said, after this class, once the class was done, we said, we're going to stay in that classroom and we're going to have a talk. And then me, Nugusu, took the stage and we said, we're going to be together for 3 years, no matter what, whether you like it or not, we're going to be together. And so we need to get to know each other. And the way to go about it, for the university students that you guys, I think some of us have gone to school here, academics is covered, by the way. Academics is a heavily academic university. It used to be back in the day. I graduated in 98. But the one thing that was missing is the social aspect of university. So the social aspect, what it does is bring us together, right? And so we said, some of you are farmers' kids. Some of you may not have parents, but we know that you're not going to miss 5 bir a month of contribution. It's not going to hurt you because somehow you're getting some money. So out of that, you're going to contribute 5 bir for this association that we're creating. And this association, we called it Friends of Economics Department, FED. And so the sole vision of that group was to be there for each other. To build a social fabric that brings us together. And it's no longer about your background, how wealthy your families are, or you're from here or there. There was no barrier in your ethnicity. You were all one. We were all one. And we started that group. And we started kind of fundraising. We raised funds through concerts. So we were the heart and soul of the university, And within that environment, we created such strong bonds amongst us. Okay, so we were financially extremely good compared to others because we were in that spirit of raising funds, and we would organize trips actually outside of Addis. People have never been to Langano. Literally, it was only me and Sofia, my classmate, that has been to Langano. So we hired buses, took them to Langano. People have not spent nights outside of their homes. These are like very strict and, So we created these environments that allowed us to build that bond. And then, whenever something happened where, like an accident, a parent lost, and people needing support, we were there for each other. And then we kind of elevated to the third year, and then we added second year and fourth year students, fourth year, second and first year. And we were the welcoming committee too, when new students came, we had like very, organized program. That's how it was. And
really
ultimately, one example of this wonderful bond, one Nazareth school student married a Kafla Hagar ልጅ, because he got the DV visa. She had the money, he had the visa. They married. They married each other.
That is exactly what we don't want here.
And, successfully lived some type of life. And, that support system was there. So that's a good example of a community coming together.
Yes,
so we were there. And then once I got back to Ethiopia, one of the amazing work that we're doing currently is this Lycée community coming together for the breast cancer walk. So again, it started with a friend of ours that was our hero that passed away from breast cancer, and we saw that and we realized that we need to be her voice and we need to really represent her, you know what I'm saying? And so because of that energy that we had and that community of the Lycée that really kind of pulled us together, different generations, different groups, we all came together, and we, this past year was our fourth year putting our event. It has become, the breast cancer event of the year in Ethiopia. We've raised millions for Alam Tsahai Breast Cancer Foundation. We had close to 3,000 people show up, and like looking all these people, we know that we printed 3,000 t-shirts, and how did everyone come? Because we normally will have half of the people that we hustle to get us the t-shirt purchased normally don't show up, but it was just wonderful. We used our network for good. Yo-Yo is one of our major supporters. She's next to us all the time. Every single person that Yo-Yo has in her network, she is pushing them to support the cause. So the way we go about life in a manner that where success is no longer money, Success is about finding that balance that allows us to give back. This world is such an unequal world, this current lifetime that we're in right now. We are on the side of the privileged, and the fact that I am a true believer that whatever God has given you as a skill set is not to be wasted. The energy that we have, because we're healthy, has to be given back. And that's the focus for us, in terms of community building. It's about really tapping into our community, and we've done such a great work in regards to that, because it's an exponential connection that you bring, and you harness that power for good. So that's a good example there.
Thank you so much for that answer. I think you did a lot of that.
So thank you for building on what you have just said. And really it's about, community, but what does success mean to you is what you said. And I already alluded to, I realized that, for at least for me, because everyone has their own success measure. I mean, we can't judge somebody's measure because everyone has. Mine, I realized it was definitely not money. Definitely not, just having money. It's about being impact, and giving back is also part of the impact. Achievement, but also family. For some, it could be just family. I'm not judging anybody's. What I'm saying is, it's what is it in you? And so this giving back. And I really appreciate, and I was looking at Betty, and I'm like, I'm so glad you raised somebody like this, because nowadays it's very difficult. In our time, it was egalitarian, whether you like it or not. I mean, we were all middle class. I mean, there was, okay, some people had more money than others, but most of the time we were the elite, let's put it this way, but it was not, the gap was not that visible. We were sharing things with everyone. Nowadays, there is real gap. There is real gap between the haves and the have-nots. And it's it's amazing that they could do that. We're trying. I hope, we get that. The humility part is very important. And I think we carry it. I mean, I carry it a lot. Humility, even in the work that you do. Because, some people just get, with power and everything. It's a facade. If you have your humility, and that's where I really think these values are important, because even if you are in a very high level position, or if you are, we are privileged, as you said. I mean, we are in the hierarchy, we are the elites. We have to admit that. But what do you do with that, with the elites? I mean, are you giving back? Are you trying to pull people up, or are you just in your thing? And then, it happens a lot. I'm being very honest here, because I see our society now has become very different from the society that where money and haves and have not. Even in our own lycée, I'm digressing a bit, but what I'm saying is the value system is very important. The humility, knowing what your value is not just about money, it's about giving back, it's about humility, it's about sharing common ground. So for me, because you asked how is this community thing, first of all, like I said, in my work at the NGO, I was not in the best part of the Washington, D.C. I was in the southeast, where when people think about Washington, they only see the White House, etc. But there's a poverty part, and I would, even if I stay long enough, I could hear the shoots, the drive-by shootings, etc. It was not privileged. So I said to myself, okay, I can give back to this community, or I can give back. What about my country? Because I used to come back here I come back here and I say to myself, is it here? I mean, they have their own. They have their own, it's the US. I'm not supposed to be helping these ones. So for me, it came from within. I need to go back and help out Africa so coming back here, because I really want to talk about something. During COVID times, I carry Lycée Guebre-Mariam. I'm not blowing the horn of my own husband, but really, during COVID times when we were all working from home, but we were, because there was no shutdown properly in Ethiopia, but people were not getting food, people were not going to, everything was shut down. And he came up with the idea of creating this I Care Lycée, like starting with the Lyceans. Robel was part of it. He was president. And that's when, really, because we had time, we were at home, and then we were giving back to the elderly, to this kind of, I wish we knew to schools, the surrounding of lycée schools, like John F. Kennedy. I'm sure you've never heard about it. It's right behind Lycée. John F. Kennedy, and the other one was the one in Mercato, Andernet. Oh, these people, and they're so, we gave them books, we gave them, at the time it was mask, and for COVID, mask, but the gratefulness, what you get out of it. I mean, it's also selfish, to be honest. It's selfless, but also selfish, because you get a lot from, the reactions of these people, the communities, the lycées around us. We give to the elderly. So I want to thank my husband there, because he's the one who put us together when the time was difficult. It was Robel, Ida, you two, and Amaki. Yes, the core people there. So this kind of giving, that's when the breast cancer came afterwards. I mean, you guys did but it's like for me, I see it as a continuation of that movement. The point I'm trying to make is sometimes you really have to define what is it that makes you as a person. Some people could be something else, but I think in our cultural values, and you really said it well, in our Abesha Ethiopia culture, I don't think the value of capital is our main, unless, like we are, even the US is coming back to their senses, sorry to say, but the value system should not be, because money accumulated in your bank account, what does it do? Like how many Rolex can you have, or how many, but at the end of the day is what you give back, what you build, and the impact you have. So I really feel that Lycée is a very good starting point. We all of us, and we are privileged people, but even in our lycée, like I was discussing this with my kids today, that's why I'm saying, we had very different perspective. We had friends from other African countries. We had friends, our mindsets are so open. Like, that's why sometimes we don't, associate with some, you call them kiflahagar, but the point I'm trying to make is that we have created our own thing, but that made us open to a lot of different views, because we're not one-sided. That creates empathy, by the way, seeing other people's perspective. Not really saying, okay, I'm an Ethiopian, so I have to know. We are open-minded, and we should use that for our empathy and sympathy, and also to give back, which is important. And I'm so happy for you that you got that value to your kids, Betty.
Salam nachu. Anyways, for me, community and solidarity are core to what I do. Again, this didn't come just like this. I think Lycée gave me this, because growing up in Lycée, one of the biggest beauty and privilege that we had in Lycée, like Fevu mentioned it, Marit mentioned it, is growing up with a diverse community. Not only, at that time, President Mengistu San was in our class. For those of you who know Mengistu Haile and he was in our class, and he was a normal student. He was not different, because outside what people know about Mengistu is different from what we see from the Mengistu San in our class. And the other beauty of Lycée is Africa. For me, Lycée, it's a blessing. It's a blessing. We grew up with people from not only Africa, Europe, French-speaking countries, Canada, France, Swiss, but most importantly for me, Africa. I grew up with Congolais, Ivoiriens, Cameroonais, Senegalais, you name it, Chadian. We took even a Chadian in our Amharic class when we were young. We took. Is he from Chad?
No, he's Angolais.
Who?
He is Angolais.
Angolais, yeah. I had Vasco, a guy from Angola. Vasco, a guy from Angola in our class, you see? So it was, Lycée gave us this community and solidarity, but without us knowing it. Some people struggle. Do you know some people struggle to be in a community? I mean, we're privileged. Being in Lycée, it's a privilege, and that I think we should duplicate it. They mentioned so many things. Like, I don't want to mention those things again, but let me tell you how the Lycée community has become global. We had one sports teacher. Not probably the favorite one for everybody, but he's remarkable for all of us because of his nature. Monsieur Amene, I don't know if any of the young generation know about Monsieur Amene. Monsieur Amene is a very, different guy, a very funny guy, but he had impacted most of us positively, some also probably negative. But when Monsieur Amene after his divorce, got into a problem, and his kids and his wife took everything from him, and he got sick. After that, he got sick, and first we tried to help him by giving his family a job in the company that I was working, and he got terribly sick, and in the hospital I just tried to run to different people, different companies who want to try to support him, for him to get medical treatment. He didn't have money to have medical treatment, and we came up with an idea of launching a GoFundMe. Was it GoFundMe or something like this? And guess what? The people who contributed for Monsieur Amene was shocking for us. people who are in Vietnam, you know, lycéens who are in Vietnam, who feel that community, you know, who feel that we are one community, contributor. And the most amazing part is not only we were able to cover his medical treatment, but we were able to buy him a house.
No way.
Yeah. Wow. We bought a house. Wow. We bought a condominium for Mishamana.
Wow.
So, you know, the guy, because when it was me and Melor, I don't know, some of you know Melor probably, we went to visit his house, and I was shocked. It was one room, 2 kids, his wife in one room, same area, cooking, my teacher. Hold on a second. And then, you know how the lycée community came together, and the money they raised for medical treatment went beyond. So community is very important. And, you know, I strongly love and cherish this African connection. Because, well, thanks to General Africana, whom we carry his name, has given us beautiful borders. But General Africana gave us, as you all know the story, he's a Roman general who had the conquering the Africa. And now we have borders, thanks to him. But Africa never had borders. You know, Europeans have taken off their borders. There may be some positive and negative, but it's to create a community. It's to create a community. Unfortunately, in our country, we struggle with small things. You know, when I see people struggling in Ethiopia with minor things and not being able to see the bigger picture, where we can bring a continent, and Africa, who was together previously, you know, with no borders, sharing I could walk from here to Senegal without any passport, or, you know, so that is a sense of community that was given to us from lycée, and that we should give back to create an impact. And lycée, you have the privilege, lycée, especially even those who are in lycée currently, you should force your school to go out of lycée and to go to Marit Kitaw, to John F. Kennedy, to understand how people live, how you can create this sense of community, you know. By the way, again, Ethiopia, the name Ethiopia is not just for this part of the country. Ethiopia means burnt skin. It's a Greek word that means burnt skin, which represents the whole Africa, right, as we all know. So that sense of community should not be limited to just us, some area, some ethnicity, some manaman, but it should be have a great to impact the world. You know, Africa, for me, Africa is the next big thing, and Africa could be symbolic for the world. Not to beg, not hands of begging, but hands of blessing. You know, we have everything. I traveled within Ethiopia. The resource that I saw within communities, go to Wallo, go to Tigray, go to Gambela, go to Nakamt, go to Jimma, go to Afar, go to Djibouti, go to Eritrea, go to Kenya. I mean, this is a blessed continent, blessed community. And us who have the privilege of where our parents paid our education, I strongly believe that we should not only work to make money, but to impact this continent, to give, to grow this continent, to turn this continent from begging to blessing. But how do we do that? By integrating this community value that we by default got it from lycée. You know, I never wanted a guy from Angola or from Cameroon to be. I was in lycée, they're in my class. I shared their culture, I shared their dance, I shared their music, I shared their food. You know that Hopa de class. I don't know if you still have it. Do they have it still?
No.
Hopa de class. Yeah, where we used to bring food, couscous, fufu, manam, and all things. So that community value is very critical, not only to change your life, but to change this continent. Thank you.
Yes, very great answers. Thank you so much. I think they've all kind of touched on different answers. Yes. Because we are running a little short on time, we would like to open up the floor for questions. We will take 2 or 3 from the audience. So if you would like to ask a question, please raise your hand and I can give you the mic.
All right. I hope you can hear me. All right. Thank you for giving us this chance for us to sit here and listen to your experiences and the opportunities that you've took. And I really appreciate you all. So I think it's fair to say we can admit there is a generation gap between you and us. And no, I just wanted to put, I guess there wasn't many people that were educated back then, so like the opportunities were high, like everyone can take a bite from the opportunities. But right now, in my age, there are a lot of people educated, whether they're skilled or not, whether they fit or not. There are people everywhere educated, and the opportunities, I can say, like, they're a bit tight right now. So just to put my words in the right way, if the goal is like to serve our community and while building personal success, how do you balance ambition with accountability, especially in the system where doing the right things often seems harder than taking the shortcuts. I mean, for me, like I'm thinking about taking that opportunity. How do I build myself? How do I top all these people and take that opportunity? So, but at the end of the day, I'm thinking about myself, not my community or not other people. So how do you expect me to balance this thing while serving my community? Because I want to, but the time is like pushing us to be selfish, I guess. So like how do you want us to balance these things? How old are you? 25.
Okay.
No.
She can still be employed.
So I think so that's
We can take that question first, and then we can
Okay.
see time. But that's a great question. Thank you.
Take 3 more.
Take more questions and then answer.
Ah.
Okay. Who would like to ask another question?
My question to you guys is taken into consideration. I don't want to disrespect you guys with the generational gap, but what she said is kind of right. It is kind of right. Your time and our time is very different, and it goes to the same point that she said. Nowadays, most people are very scared of going back to their countries. For example, I was in Malaysia and I was doing my studies there, and everybody asked me, "Oh, what are you doing now?" And I was like, "I'm going home." They were like, "Huh?" And even the people from Malaysia there, they would ask me, "Why are you going home?" Like, why are you going home? Some of my church people would ask me, "Please, it's okay, I'll find a job for you, just stay." Like, just stay. And the mindset behind it is that when you go home, there's nothing waiting for you. So how can you kind of encourage the younger generation and people of our people and show us that there's more to this don't go home mindset, there's more to this, there's nothing in your country? Because nowadays, like if you see what's happening in Ethiopia, the roads are getting remade. Yes, it's coming at a cost, but a lot of things are changing. Brands are starting to understand what branding is. Companies are starting to understand the value of connections. And you would see these different things like Telebir coming out, which I left 3 years ago. I came back and suddenly Telebir is here. And it's all of these little things that mean advancement, and taking into consideration that all of us learn all of these diverse different lessons or so, or educations or different degrees. We come back here and I think we have more value here in Ethiopia, in our countries, than we do in those other places. So how can you, as people who have lived here, as people who have gone abroad and come back, and as people who have built companies and so here, how can you like encourage the generation that is of now that living abroad is not as pretty as it actually is? So that's my question.
እነዚህን እንመልስና ለማስታወሱ ራሱ ሊያቅተኝ ነው። So ለማሳጠር, just to make sure that we cover, because there are 3 people times 2. To your point, your question, to summarize, is I'm young. I know I want to give back to my community, and yet life is tough and competitive. And how do I make it work? That's basically, in a nutshell, how do I make it work, and how do I stand out in an environment where everyone is almost excellent, right? So a couple of things. I do believe, and I'll give you an example. So I told you I sit on a board called Imagine One Day. So at this point, we have almost 1,000 country staff. Out of that 1,000, the first hiree, Amaha, because this is 2013 is when it was built, this organization, Amaha is the driver of, he's one of the first hiree, has been the first driver and does everything else, but he's still a driver, okay? So our philosophy is that we lead by example. Amaha, as the driver, started, bought like chewing gum, mastika, a bunch of chewing gum, sold each gum for 10 birr. This was like 6 years ago. To buy a handicapped woman her wheelchair. You know what I'm saying? So it does not matter what you do, as long as you do something. It doesn't have to be big. Now, in my case, I had to limit my nonprofit work in a sense where I had to limit it to a day. So out of the 5 days, when we do the breast cancer walk, because it's a busy month, I do it almost 60, 70% of my time. But there is a way that you balance your time in a way like you kind of trunch out a small couple of hours within your plan to kind of do something that pulls your heart. Whatever pulls your heart is different than what pulls my heart, right? So it has to have a calling to a certain extent. If it doesn't have a calling right now, you're young, do not stress about it. In terms of how you stand out among your community, it is tough and competitive, much more competitive than in our time. It is true. And the competitiveness is visible. That's the problem that the younger generation is having right now. So you've got social media that's painting a picture where your peer seems like she's making it happen, right? I can guarantee you, whatever, like the three of us have been friends for a long time, but we've never spoken about our path. And I thank you for creating this environment for us. But what you've heard is the fact that our path was sort of like, we kind of fell into things, right? Like our destiny allowed us to pass through. So there is one thing that's common amongst us is the fact that we kind of followed our path. But then the second common thing is that we're extremely persevering and hardworking. So my recommendation is that keep it super grounded to you. Have like a laser focus of what your heart tells you to do, but keep that hard work ethic going. So whatever experience you're having during that path that you're in, even if it's the most mundane, I cannot even tell you the kind of mundane stuff that I've done in the US. As a single mom, 24-year-old single mom, I used to sell alarm systems, okay? But I always took each experience to build my skill set. There was nothing boring about any of the jobs that I had. And there was an experience, something that's like building a muscle in your body, okay? So the social media piece that's creating this sense of urgency and sense of pressure, try your best to understand through our life, your path, whatever is meant for you is going to happen, but you have to give it 100% of that. And get grounded to hear yourself, right? Like to hear that path and ground yourself in order to kind of shelter from the noise and sit to your path, and it will work out, okay? To your point, the US as, like land of opportunity as it wasn't for me. I'm much more successful here in the third world country than I am in the US. And for the people that, are not understanding that, it's our marketing, it's our branding as a country that we're failing. Okay, so, but I can 100% guarantee you, I work in real estate, we do deals, development, the kind of profit margin that we're seeing in Ethiopia, untapped opportunity. So untapped opportunity in Ethiopia and untapped opportunity in other African countries. The only difference is I feel like Ethiopia is a little bit more structured. I know that the dilution of what's going on right now and the noise makes it unpretty. It's not pretty, right? But I do believe that the bones are here. I know, for other African countries, when we say we've never been colonized, that's the first thing that comes to, especially when we're talking to other, like foreigners, Europeans and so on, that is a big pride moment for us. But I've traveled to other African countries, and I know that the fact that they've been colonized, what it did was bring other colonizee, like the Indians, for example, to take over the business sector in those, African countries. The fact that Ethiopia was not colonized and the protectionist policy that allowed this country to thrive with their own people, it makes this country the most vital country to be at from a business perspective. And business connects to everything else. So your non-profit work, everything else connects as well. So that's my spiel to you.
Thank you, Feben.
Thank you. So to the first question, I mean, it's very strange that we are different generations, but the same problems. I mean, maybe you think it's because I remember being your age very vividly, and that's where I was saying, we come out of school and we're not really sure where we are. And to be fair to you guys, I mean, community engagement does not come to your mind as you go out of the school. Because at the end of the day, like you say, it's not being selfish. It's because you want to plan for yourself. You want to be somebody. You want to achieve something. Of course, the first thing you want to do is not community. It comes after, so don't be, it's not being selfish. It's normal that you want. But as Feb was saying, you are under pressure more than us because of this instant gratification that social media, somebody selfie, I'm here, I'm there, you think everyone is like this. The pressure on you is much, much more difficult. And we have to acknowledge that. We didn't have that, thank God, when I was your age, because it's tough, because you are comparing to some incomparable things sometimes, some bluff. But of course, as I keep telling my kids as well, most of it is it's not deep fake, but there's some fake in there. The point is that you really have to find, and don't feel that pressure. I liked because she said humility. If you had that humility in your upbringing, that grounds you. You don't get into this fake, not fake, but like this very, how do you say, they're not fake, but they're superficial, let's put it this way, of self gratification without knowledge. And you said something about like quick wins, or it's not quick win, you said something even shortcuts. I hate those shortcuts. You have to give it your time, your knowledge. These shortcuts are the most difficult, because nowadays they offer you so many shortcuts, but you have to build yourselves, and you don't build yourselves through shortcuts, because you have to really see beyond the shortcuts. It's tough. I mean, I do understand what you're coming from, but it does take some time. You have to invest in your knowledge, in your skills, and try to avoid. And what we gave us, I mean, at least is to give you some backing. I mean, some people who are underprivileged, they don't have that luxury. So they have to really go to quickly have jobs and make, but you guys are a bit privileged. You can invest in knowledge, in skills, in real, not just a selfie on a TikTok and then get money, I mean, this is my opinion. But I'm just saying that you need to invest in your own skills, so that it's also building your own value, by the way, because that's how your internal, now I'm becoming a little bit of, but the point I'm trying to make is, at the end of the day, you have to be good when you look at yourself in the mirror. You have to say, that's where that comes from. You're not into the superficial, you are into the real. And that's, especially for young women, it's very important, because the world, will whether we like it or not, it's not equal. As a woman, you are judged in some different ways that your male counterparts don't have. So if you have that intrinsic value within you, that's really and that builds your thick skin. And then whatever people say about your looks, about your this, you just because you know you've built yourself. So I think it's very important to build. Don't find shortcuts. Build yourself, invest in yourself, and try to mute those noises. There are noise. I know it's difficult because I can imagine at 22 or 21 I was not like this. I mean, because I know I have built myself, but I remember how my thinking process when I was your age, and some of it comes with age, with wisdom, but some of it you can learn it even at this young age. So that's what I have to say. For the other one, I mean, 20 years ago when I decided to come from the US, the same thing. Even my own parents were saying, you are crazy. How can you let go of a green card to come? What are you going to be? And I work in this African space. It's the biggest, who's coming most, it's the biggest potential in Africa. Because you have so many. So the ones working in IT, the ones working in AI, there's so many things you can bring from the West, and here you can be so successful. I mean, I've been to other African countries. It's much easier, to be honest, than Ethiopia. I'm being very honest here. I don't know if it's recorded somewhere, but
It is.
I mean, here to start a business is much more difficult than Kenya or. Well, it's I know the continent. I know a lot of lost businesses because of it's not easy here. It's coming, it's opening up, but I'm not saying they should open everything and then dilute everything. Yeah. Okay. The point I'm trying to make is you can build something here that is, and this is, there you are just in Malaysia, I don't know, but in the US you are just one drop. So many competent people. You're just what you cannot make impact as you can in Africa. Africa is opened for business. I mean, I'm telling you, the potential is here. It's just that we need the reverse brain drain. We need to build the skills, and you have to make some decision at some point to come. And I was saying, even before, I remember I was telling you right before this conversation, you think you make a lot of money in the US, but you spend it. It's like it's a consumerism. You don't save anything. Here, the same money you can save, you can build, and then the self-satisfaction you get. This is what I'm saying. So don't listen to those who will say naysayers. Listen to your voice and make it happen. You will not succeed at once, for sure. Life is challenging. It will be, but then persevere, like you're saying. Be driven. Have the goal in your mind, and then and build relationships because they help you out. The community, everyone else, and surround yourselves with yes-sayers, not naysayers, and then you'll be able to. But once your mind is here, just follow your heart. That's all.
Thank you.
And I want to build on what Marit said because it's very similar. I'm not going to say a lot to your question, but I think one beauty that we don't have and you should have is having a mentor. I've never had a mentor. Growing up, I found out everything by myself. At 23, I was sent in Desi. When people were expecting me in DC, I was in Desi. So, but I found out everything, things that could have taken my life. So have a mentor, especially to have a mentor. Not your mom and dad will never be your mentor because there's always the family side. But they can tell you to go to somebody they know, which you can have a conversation, a coffee about life. So having a mentor will give you another dynamics, another perspective. It doesn't matter because you're 25 or you're in lycée, bac, or première, or terminal, or 12th grade, or whatever they call it in the British system. So have a mentor. There are so many successful, not from lycée only, successful people outside lycée, in the Ethiopian community. President Sahle-Work once said to me, what, I decided to go in the public sector to work at that time, where salaries was 200, 300 birr, So to have a mentor will give you a good perspective. So that's what I want to build on. To you, my brother, I understand you, but your roots matters. Your roots and your future. And guess what? You come from a continent that is blessed. Trust me. You come from a family that is blessed, that gave you an opportunity to go to Malaysia to study. so many of our African brothers, because they don't know what to do, they're struggling. Guess what? I think you are more privileged than us to impact the continent because of social media. Today, my house help has a social media. Somebody in whatever you call it, at wherever you go, I can tell you to the end of Ethiopia has social media. So you have an opportunity to impact. To not to impact only. If you do it from Ethiopia, you can impact the whole Africa. Between you and I, when you go to Europe and you see the African brothers selling bags and police chasing them and running for their life, how do you feel about that? And they come, and they come from a continent that has everything. How do you use that resource to grow the continent, to limit young people having a brain drain? How you are there, this opportunity, this platform, that's why it is for me, is to create, to teach you how you can impact millions of Africans, not to go to Europe, but to grow in the continent. Sometimes you don't blame the Europeans because of huge people coming, and sometimes they're so suffocated and they're like scared. Of course, everything has its own reason why that happened. I don't want to go in there, but we don't want to look back, but see how we can impact the future. Malaysians will never change Africa. Italians will never change. At least the Prime Minister said we have a scheme, Mate project, to give back to Africa, to businesses in Africa. But if you and I are not responsible to change the life of 1.4, I'm not going to say we're going to change it, but impact. Remember we said impact. If you impact 1 or 2 people in Angola, in Nigeria, and make them see the opportunity they have in Africa, what they can do is in Africa, and how they can grow alongside with the world. I'm sorry to say, we're no more a third world country. We're no more a developed country. We are a continent that should use its resource the right way to grow its people. You see, we have everything. Gold, we have it. Lithium, we have it. Hydroelectric, we have it. What else do you want? Diamond, we have it. Animals, we have it. Tourism, we have it. The sun, we have it. Then why are you poor? Why this continent is poor? I'm not Mandela, you're not Mandela. Even Mandela did not impact her. But we can create an impact. Malaysians will never change Africa. Japanese, they will give you aid through JICA, and that's like holding your hands tight. You're as equal as take Malaysia 40 years back. You think this is the current Malaysia? Yeah. So we are here to make an impact, to grow. It's a global community. We'll grow together, but we are more lucky to be Africans and to have the opportunity to impact Africa. And this is the reason why I stayed in my country. Try to impact the development of this country. So this is my advice to you, my brother.
Can I say something?
Absolutely. I'm not the moderator.
Yes.
Just
Yeah,
quickly,
that's okay.
just quickly.
Yeah, of course.
And I'll make it very simple. Please be selfish. Be absolutely selfish. None of us started life saying, at your age, I'm going to create a business and have an impact. With all due respect, that's bullshit. We created our businesses for our own selfish reasons. Through that, when you employ one person, then you employ the second person, then the third person, you start having an impact on other people's life. Your purpose was not impact. Your purpose was sell coke, build buildings, have an architecture firm, whatever it is. Through what your selfish purpose, you will end up doing something. But don't let that be the stressful point. You don't have to run your own business. You can be hired by somebody else. You will eventually find that impact. Okay? I'm almost 50. I don't live my life looking for impact. Through what I do, I end up helping people because it's just an opportunity to do so. But I don't wake up every day saying, what's the impact for the day? No, we don't. Let's be real. We really don't. You want to live outside of Ethiopia? Please knock yourself out and do. There's no such thing as you have to live in Ethiopia to have impact. Whatever you want to do, wherever you want to do it, do it. You will not find your passion tomorrow morning. You may turn 40 and still not find your passion, but you're still living life, and it's okay. Please stop pressuring yourself. We're just sharing our experience, but we're not saying this is the path. Okay? So I miss living in America. I've been here 17, 18 years. I'm about done with Ethiopia. Let's be real. I'm about done. You have the energy to come back here and do it? Do it. You want to stay in Malaysia? Stay in Malaysia. When you feel like you're ready to bring something back that will add value for yourself, be selfish. Your selfishness is what creates change. Thank you.
Okay. ለመጨረስ Okay.
Nice
I'll
mic.
stand up for this.
ይሰራል?
ይሰራል, yeah. በመጀመሪያ thank you guys so much for being here, sharing your insights, taking all this time to bring people, to give us your honest answers, to talk about your experiences. I think that is what is most valuable. I think we don't have a lot of this time to share with each other kind of the background, the in between. I think we see sometimes the start and then we see the finish, but sometimes we got to take the time to see the middle. And that's what I really want to encourage people to find, this tension of there are failures, there are things to discover, there is impact, there is selfishness, and yet like there's so much beauty and there's so much we can learn about each other, and we need to take the time to listen. And I'm just really grateful for you guys being able to do that. I also want to thank Zen Apartments, of course, for you guys giving me this platform. My parents for making this possible. I'm really, really, really thankful. Jordan, your encouragement. You are one of my mentors. And you are, her episode is coming soon on the YouTube. Follow closely. And for ACEDE, for giving us an opportunity for you guys to also be able to share and for us to give back, and everybody else who made this possible. I'm really thankful. And so please, I invite you to connect, to share. If you have to leave, maybe leave. But order something from Zen. You guys have an opportunity to order any drinks, any food. But we'll also be wrapping up soon. But I just want to thank everybody here for making this night possible and coming.